Wow, I was thinking that music's louder than normal. And I realized I got my new hearing aids in.
Oh, nice.
Welcome, everybody. There it is again, our sound bed, our longtime intro to Drum Talk TV. And I'm happy to introduce you again, or for the first time, if you missed her the first time around, second time guest, Amanda Muse. Welcome. How are you?
Thank you. It's so good to be here. I'm great. Happy to be here.
Great. I follow you on social, and I'm always so pleased with how busy you stay.
Oh,
You're a pretty
I
busy woman.
appreciate that. I try to stay busy. It's tricky doing the freelance thing, but it's a grind. You always have to be thinking about what's next. So,
I was just going to ask, like, what is more of the grind? Is it doing the work, or is it getting the work,
oh,
searching for the work and interviewing for the work and auditioning for the work and all of that?
well, doing the work can certainly be tough depending on the volume or the just the scope of a project, but getting the work is something you always have to be aware of. You have to be thinking months in advance,
Right.
and you don't really. I mean, you have weekends if you want, but that's a good part. You set your own schedule, but you are always thinking about how can I meet a client, or how can I get this person to come to this coffee shop with me for a chat. Uh, Cold emails, a lot of rejection. You get tough skin doing it, so you
It's
get used
always
to
it's a
it.
sales job first. And for those who
Yes.
don't know, tell everybody what you do. Um,
Yeah.
Steve's loading some material in the background that I'm going to be able to show them. You've got a wonderful new project we'll talk about in a moment, but tell them in general what you do. What's your gig?
Yeah, in general, I moved to LA here to pursue composing, composing for film, TV, and general media like ads, promos, commercials. And I also incorporate drumming as well into it. So I'll do drum gigs I did League of Legends drum gig for them, or recording for a library or anything like that. So I enjoy combining the composing aspect with the percussion aspect, and that's kind of how I managed to establish my signature sound.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of percussive stuff.
Yeah, it is unique. Now, did you grow up going through the drumline culture?
Yes. Yeah, I joined drumline in 10th grade. I was a flute player in band, but anytime there was a substitute teacher, this is so bad to even say, but I pretended I was a percussionist.
I
Because the
love that.
percussion section, they didn't have any room to add anyone else. So my best score on an instrument was flute. So I chose the flute. But I really was interested in percussion since a very young age. I got my parents' pots and pans and buckets and like hoarded them in my room and just banging
Wow.
on stuff because yeah, I didn't have a drum set until finally high school when I got into drumline. I got into drumline and fully took over.
And drum set player as well?
Drum set. Okay, I was very interested in drum set and it started out with drum set, but drumline I ended up being way more trained in,
Hmm.
and just the passion for that took over. And I would consider myself way more experienced in drumline than drum set. Yeah.
What is it that attracted you more with passion to the drumline style of playing? Was it the structure, the precision? Was it the
Um,
group element of
yeah,
playing with other drummers
it
and
was all
percussionists?
of that. It's such a craft, and it's this thing that I think is really people don't people don't really who aren't really in drumline don't understand the hours and hours and the dedication that
Oh
goes
yeah.
into lining up. You have 10 people on a line and it needs to sound like this. And reps and reps and reps with this people standing beside you. There's such a community aspect,
Yeah.
and you're all working so hard behind the scenes more than everyone else in the marching band. I will say that
Yeah.
drumline has to be the heartbeat carrying the band, carrying the drum majors, communicating with the drum majors so that the rest of the band stays in time. So for me, it was the passion of the craft of perfecting the craft and doing it with people beside me, and we're all kind of in it together. So I loved the group aspect, but also really liked the regimented stuff.
Yeah. While I wasn't in drumline, I am always just in drop jaw awe when I see the precision of, if you just take someone playing the quints or even the bass drum or the snare drum, that's one thing that's awesome to me in its own. But when you have, like you said, 10 people doing that in precision, in synchronization, and then add the choreography, like
Yeah.
there's so much going on there that how could it not take hours and hours and hours of dedication? It's got to be something you
Yeah.
just really want to do, or how could you ever be good at it, you know?
Yeah, and I started watching the Rocky movies
Mm.
the season before the drumline auditions happened at my high school because, like I said, I was a flute player. I was never an actual percussionist. So I decided I would do the crazy jump and audition. And so I watched Rocky to really inspire me to just go after this thing no matter what it takes. So I got the high school snare drum. I rented it and was marching in my backyard and just doing drill in my backyard. I was
Wow.
like 4 feet 10 at the time. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was so dedicated to making it, and I did. So it was
Wow.
just proof to myself that I was able to do this impossible thing. It was to me impossible at the time, but I didn't care. I wanted to go after it anyway.
You literally made a dream come true.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
And
was
now look at
cool.
you. You are doing film composition, commercials. We'll get to your album in a second. But what was the home life like, if you don't mind me asking? It sounds like you must have had your parents' support, yeah?
Oh, totally, totally.
Yeah.
My mom drove me to everything, put me in lessons. My neighbors dealt with my
I was
loud
gonna ask that next.
drumming. Yeah, totally had parental support and just appreciated that every step of the way.
That's great. Siblings?
Yes, yes, I have three older sisters. I'm the
Oh,
baby. Yeah.
what did they think?
I mean, they were all for it. They inspired me to go for it too. I
Oh, nice.
mean, yeah, there was never a point ever in my family where it was like, you're crazy. You shouldn't be doing that. And that's
Oh, good.
how my sisters and I all grew up. We grew up in the environment of if you want to do it, you just go after it, but make sure you put in the work to do it
Yeah.
and be practical about it.
That's great. Support means everything.
Yeah.
There's enough self-doubt with even with it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so that's wonderful. So you have this amazing new album called Epic Drumline Promos. Describe it, and then we'll show a couple of videos.
Yes, this is an album I did with Universal Production Music. It is meant for TV promos, commercials, sports ads, and it basically combines live traditional drumline with trailer style, cutting edge, punchy sound design. So it's very promo friendly. It's made for, those ESPN zingers for the next upcoming college game. And
Hmm.
yeah, we recorded fully live drumline specifically for this.
Wow. That's cool. Let's pick. Thanks, Steve. Steve loaded two in here. Let's look at Phantom Beat. So epic. You did all that music, right? That's all
Yes,
your
yeah.
composition and
I wrote
production
that,
too?
the sound design, the drum line. The drum line is live recorded over at my undergrad college. Um, I flew over to North Carolina to record there because I wanted live players. But yeah, that was just a silly video I wanted to do on Halloween
Yeah,
just to
we
be
featured
like,
that on
hey, this is
Halloween and to promote this. It's just great. It's
yeah,
great.
thank
Did you
you.
do the video editing too, Amanda?
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
the full one-stop shop. I've been doing that since like I ever even started posting videos in like 2017.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's see another. This one's Amanda Muse behind the scenes. You're going to see her mowing the lawn, picking wheat. No, I'm kidding. Not those scenes. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Amanda Muse, and I'm a composer working with Universal Production Music. This is a fusion of drumline beats, very energetic and punchy, with sound design. So whether it's for a sports promo, a college football game, I want everyone to be able to enjoy these tracks. They're really catchy, so it's very fun and captured live drumline specifically for it. I'm sitting in the basketball arena at WCU, the Ramsey Center, and I actually graduated in this room, but I wanted to capture the organic reverb of this room. I'm a sucker for organic sound. You could probably get away with samples on these, but it was so important to me to capture a joy and a fun that I know is going to be reflected in these. There was a lot more hurdles we had to overcome because of that, but I don't regret it. I like to do things the hard way.
It's so good. Yeah, I love that you did do that in the arena because with the sonic challenges that you mentioned, there's that electricity and the natural buzz that comes out of just the energy that's created from the sound waves in a room like that.
Yeah, totally. And I've listened to tracks before, on Spotify of live drum lines. Maybe it was just like a marching band doing a cadence thing, but you can tell when it's a live drum line because and we've talked about this before, there's little nuances. It's
Yeah.
not a box perfectly square.
Right. It's not
I
quantized.
wanted, yes, I wanted to capture the little nuances. I didn't want everything to be 100% quantized perfect. And I wanted the human aspect of it. And the reverb was very important to me as well. I worked in sampling. I worked for CineSamples, which is a virtual instrument company, for a couple years. And so I got very experienced in the world of sampling and recording. And so I messaged my friend from CineSamples and I was like, should I do this? It's crazy, but should I do it? Drums, just drums in a gym. He's like, yeah, go for it. And I was like, yeah, okay, let's do it. But it was just me recording that day. So it was tough, and there were like certain audio issues in the morning, but we figured it out and we got through all of it in one day. We had to
Yeah.
get through it in one day.
That's awesome. How would you describe the difference of playing those types of instruments together indoors, like an arena like that, versus an outdoor football field?
Oh, the listening environment is drastically different indoors. Outdoors, you hear more of the contact sound of the drums. You're not getting a washy, just reverb of everythingness in
Yeah.
your ears. You can clearly hear the person next to you. And as a drumline player, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to lock into the person next to you. Indoors, it's very washy, very reverby, and you don't hear the contact sound as much. But also, on top of that, we had our headphones on. So it was really, really hard to hear the person next to us. And on top of that, we're reading the music. Some of us were sight reading, and it was a lot, but we got through it. So it was a tricky, really tricky listening environment there. It's always easier outside.
Yeah. That's neat. I want to read, I have on a different screen. I'm going to read some of the titles. This is available on Spotify. I believe the link
Yes.
is in the post. We've got Groove Party, Power Surge, Taiko Time, one of my favorites on the album, Feed the Beast, Jingle Jam, Amped Up Now, Downright Dirty, Phantom Beat, Going for the Gold, and Bring the Fight. 10 awesome percussion centric tracks that are just so fun to even listen to. I can't wait to learn like where this goes and who ends up using it. Like, do you think maybe you'll be watching ESPN one day and go, "Hey, that's my track," like before you
That's what
even
I'm
get the notice
hoping.
saying, "Hey, here's a check for this licensed piece," right?
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm hoping. Because they don't really tell us, Universal doesn't really have the time to tell every composer, hey, we just landed a sync for this spot and
Right.
this spot. How we find out is later on with the PRO check or the royalty check that you get months
Yeah.
later. But I'm hoping that, I'll maybe be watching something and hear it on there, or my friends watch sports more than I do. But they were in on it. They were players there, so that maybe they'll be like, "Hey, I just heard us playing on
That's awesome.
ESPN." But that's
At
the
the
goal.
Olympics, on an Olympics
Oh my
track or
gosh,
something.
yeah. That would be
Yeah.
awesome. Even
Wh-
just also for workouts or like people wanting to feel pumped, I wanted to capture that in the album. I wanted to
mhm.
capture the energy for anyone to be able to listen to some pumped up beats.
That's great. Um, Gosh, I have so many questions. Who's responsible? I'm guessing hopefully Universal takes on a load of marketing and shopping responsibility of the material, correct?
Yeah, yeah, they have their connections to all the major networks, CBS, Fox Sports,
Hmm.
ESPN, and their music directors and their licensing agents basically connect with the networks and go, we have this, this would be great for this kind of segment. Or sometimes it's the opposite. The network will reach out to Universal and say, hey, we need a drum line, a 30-second drum line stinger or something.
Hmm.
So they all connect and kind of market within each other for, the clientele and all that.
How about with like advertising agencies? I could certainly see some of these tracks used for something like a Cheetos commercial or a
Yeah.
BMW or Coca-Cola or something.
Yeah,
Are
we're
you
thinking
able to
like
shop to them,
Nike.
or is that a separate
No, I don't
department?
do I don't do any of the marketing or any other than this, right?
Right, right.
No, no, I mean they do all that. They connect with the brands. They have all their connections. I just write the tracks and hand them to them, and we're kind of like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is. So, yeah.
So what if a content creator, here's two questions. What if someone who's making a short film or a, a promo for a short film or documentary wants to license it through Universal? I know that licensing fees, I don't believe anything's changed. I believe licensing fees are based on the usage. So if
Yeah.
someone's making, like, let's say, an educational film, a training film on how to take a motorcycle apart and put it back together, or customize
Yeah.
a car, something. How would they go about licensing it? And any idea how much it costs to license for the different levels of usage?
Oh man, I have no idea. I wish I knew about cost, but I don't.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't really deal much of that business side of things, but I know that it if someone wanted to license it, they would do it directly through Universal's website. And
Right.
there's a way to do that and easily license on there.
And someone can
And
buy the
yeah,
album, right? Off of
I
Spotify?
don't think they not buy on Spotify. You can download it.
Okay.
I don't think it's on iTunes. It's on Apple Music.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think you can buy the album. It would have to be licensed or listened to through streaming.
Right. That's how I've got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. And if someone wanted, so if someone heard something through Spotify and they wanted to use it, they would simply just reach out through Universal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Universalproductionmusic.com is their website.
Great. Do you think you'll do something like this again?
I would love to. I would love to. And it's cool to find that niche within the industry because there's really not a lot of stuff out there like this that has the very modern drumline sound
Right.
with trailer style sound design. There's percussive stuff, but there's not true drum core drumline stuff out there. At least not a lot that I know of. So I would love to continue doing that and just capitalizing on that niche and my expertise in that area. Because they were like, yeah, we get calls for this all the time. We need more drumline
Wow.
stuff. And I was like, I'm your gal.
That's awesome. Yeah. So from your last experience out there at the arena, A, would you record it in that same type of environment if you were to do this again? And B, what you learned through that process, will it help you streamline the process and make it easier, or did it give you ideas to make it even more challenging?
Mm. First answer, yeah, I would do it again. Um, I would probably break it up over 2 days at least because getting everything in one day was really
Oh, that was in
tricky.
one day?
All of that was recorded in
Whose
one
idea
day.
was that?
I mean, I had the arena booked and they were like, you got literally one day. I was like, okay, let's do it.
Make it work. Yeah.
But yeah, it was very tricky because it was all this happened in like the span of 3 weeks. I got the album deal. They wanted it in 4 weeks. So
Wow.
yeah, so I had to
That's
call
short
up.
time.
It was a really, really short
And
time
had it been
period.
written already before you got the deal, or did you then
No,
have to write it
I had
and
to write
record it and
it.
deliver it in 4 weeks?
I wrote these tracks. I finished writing them in I think a week and a half, which is the fastest I had ever written anything. And it's 10 tracks, and they're all about 2 minutes. And doing that in the span of a week and a half was crazy. So I
Yeah.
did that. And then during all that, was calling up the band director and making sure this was coordinated, making sure there were people that were able to show up. and play, getting the music out to the musicians. That happened only
Crazy.
like a day or two before the session. So it was crazy, crazy fast paced because Universal wanted it before the football season. They wanted it to be able to market to the networks for
Yeah.
college football season. So I was like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. But it was a good challenge for me. I learned a lot. And that kind of bleeds into the streamlining question, right? The second
Yeah.
part of your
Hmm.
question is
Yeah.
about what I would do different or
Yeah. Whether
streamline.
to streamline it or did it give you ideas that'll make it even more
Oh man.
involved, if you will, or challenging?
Yeah, I would next time definitely have more of a team surrounded with me, like
On the
able
technical
to,
side?
yes,
Yeah.
technical stuff was tricky. I love being the like only writer, so especially when it comes to drumline, I'm like very protective of my beats. So I'm like
Hmm.
selfish in that area. I wouldn't hire anyone to do any of the writing, but technical side, I would have loved, yeah, a team there recording in the gym and helping set up the rig and stuff like that. And there were a couple people there volunteering, but it was more so students. So I was fully like delegating tasks for just a couple people. But I'm so used to LA where there is complete experts already doing this stuff,
Right.
knowing what they're doing. It was a totally new experience for me. But yeah, there would be things I would do differently in terms of streamlining in the technical aspects.
That's great. Where did you learn sound design and mixing and all those aspects on the technical side?
On the job. I
Good. That's a good
mean,
place to
this
learn.
is, yeah, it's something that comes with listening to more and more tracks and expanding your own libraries and hearing how other people do things, and then just experimentation is where it all comes from. And people think there's one way to do things, and there's not. It's all comes down to taste and what you prefer in your music, especially with mixing. And I learned that so much. It all comes down to what you prefer, what you want the people to hear. Some people like it more balanced. Some people like mixes to be heavier on the bass end.
Right.
I was really firm in wanting the drum line to be the center of the mix and everything just revolving around that. That was like the main character or the main singer of these tracks. So mix wise, yeah, I learned a lot on the job because I've never done a live album like this before in this, especially in the span of like 4 weeks.
Yeah. Wow. It's such a short runway for that. That's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Wow. When you were in drumline or since, did you ever learn, whether from conversation with other people that are older than you or from watching films or listening to recordings, the difference between like today's drumline techniques and sounds versus something from the 80s and the 70s or 60s for that matter?
Yeah, yeah, it's changed a lot over the years. The people in the 80s and 90s, the way they stood on a drum line, even just the standing and the level of where the physical drum is on your
Hmm,
body has changed. And
really?
yeah, I mean, it's funny, they wear drums a lot lower now than they did back then. And we care more about now bringing the drum to wherever is comfortable on you rather than, I think back then it was more like, okay, let's have a perfectly
Aesthetic,
straight
basically.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
amongst everyone.
yeah, and I'm speaking from what I've personally seen, but yeah, I've also seen that the technique has gone a lot more flowy and
Mm.
less less how do I say it?
Rigid?
Yes, less
Yeah.
rigid,
That's rigid.
more arm is being used in drumline, and
Hmm.
just a more relaxed approach in general than if you see guys from who were drumming in the 80s and they get on a snare drum, it's all kind of like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Did you
yeah.
watch a lot of like old college halftime films and things like that to see
Yeah,
this
I
stuff?
did. Yeah, when I was in college, I was very interested in what my college was doing way back in like the 80s and 90s, and just things have changed so much in terms of technique. It's just
Interesting.
become way more relaxed, which is great. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember when I for the short time we talked before we went live, and I told you I was in drumline for a very short time. And when I was in drumline, we only we had tri-toms. There was nothing more than
Oh my
tri-toms. There weren't
God.
5 or 7 drums that you put on a harness. Like when I started seeing that, I was like, wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. But it's awesome what some of the guys and girls are doing on those things is just
Yeah.
mind blowing. Just like seeing someone do a really nice solo on a drum set with crazy chops. They're doing it right there in their it's
Yeah.
so amazing for me to watch, and the range of tones is
Mm.
just like a big drum set. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and people tune it specifically. People get so particular. I say people, I mean, including myself, we get so particular about tuning, even just a high tension snare drum where you think it's just like just a whatever
Like a
nothingness
tabletop.
of frequency. But no, we truly hear pitches in there by
Sure.
taking the snare off and tuning it how you tune a regular snare drum on a drum set, tune
Yeah.
the bottom, tune the top accordingly, and all of that applies to drumline. People really care about their tom tunings. Same in drumline, there's different keys that people tune toms in,
Yeah.
that sound the best. So it's a whole, just a whole, I don't want to say cult, but
It's a
a
culture.
whole craft
Yeah. Yeah.
that is, I feel like, very underrated from people who aren't in the drumline world. They don't know how much dedication is truly put into the craft.
Right. Amazing. Have you ever had any sort of injury from either repetitive motion and or hitting something so tight and hard, which is different
Yeah.
than, playing something with a looser head? Obviously, it
Yeah.
it has less give. What have you suffered from that? Has it been more in the hands, wrists, or
Yeah.
tendons? And
In college, I was going through one of the years, for some reason, I don't know why, but my right wrist, the hand itself, I don't know what it was, tinnitus. I don't know. I never got it checked, but
oh,
crazy, crazy cramping. I had to
oh,
tape it a certain way, and that a lot of the index finger for a lot of us was always kind of sore. So that actually helped us realize, oh my gosh, we need to relax, and relaxing took care of the problem immediately. So my initial approach was wrong because I was too stiff in my right hand,
mhm.
and the pain told me to relax, and I relaxed. It helped. Yeah.
Nice. So, what are you doing next? What's next on your to-do list musically and work-wise?
Work wise, gonna slow down a little bit for the holidays and
Good.
hoping things pick up a bit next year. Gonna try and get a lot more into film scoring and doing stuff for film and TV,
Great.
and possibly more drumline library stuff. So
Great.
that's on the goal list for next year.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. I don't remember if we did this in your first interview, so I'm just going to do it again for those who didn't see that, even if we did.
Okay.
This is the Amanda Muse Fun Fact segment
Oh,
where
okay.
you give us something that you do completely outside of work or music.
Oh my
that you enjoy to
gosh.
do? How do you like
What
to
if I
spend your
answer the
first?
same thing? I don't remember if
That's
this question
okay.
was asked, but I'm just gonna say the initial gut
That the first thing
reaction.
that comes to your mind or that's most important to you. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm really into like coffee culture,
Ah,
manual coffee brewing and like perfecting my at-home little coffee setup is something that I'm super into. I would call it a hobby, like
that's awesome.
getting
I
the
think I
the
remember
perfect
this.
beans, yeah, and
Yeah.
the grinding it,
And I think I remember you have a press too, right?
an AeroPress, yeah.
Yeah.
I have an AeroPress, I have a Kalita Wave, I have a Chemex, an espresso machine. I'm
Wow.
perfecting my lattes, my latte art currently.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite bean for a favorite type of brew?
I always go for Ethiopian beans. I like the lighter, mid to lighter roasts
Mm-hmm.
and the florally stuff. I love that. I can't drink the dark roasts anymore for some reason. I
Hmm.
just love the lighter roasts. They're very complex and you kind of get snobby about it. You're like, is that blueberry I'm tasting? A hint
Right.
of rose? Love all
Nice.
that.
Do you experiment a lot, buying different
Yes.
things that you've never had before? Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting real into the homemade pumpkin spice lattes this past fall with some real pumpkin and maple syrup, the cinnamon and all that good
That's
stuff.
great. Oh, your home must smell amazing.
I think it does.
That's great. Do you buy do you buy candles that are like baked goods scents to go with the
Yeah,
aroma of your
sometimes the
Great.
cupcakes, the vanilla cookies, so
Yeah.
good.
So what's your favorite thing to have with the coffee? Is it what you just mentioned, or is there something
Um,
specific, or no
I love
accompaniment needed?
no, I love like a good donut. A
Great.
good donut, just a plain donut, nothing too sweet. But other than that, I usually just drink it on its own.
That's awesome. Fun to
Thanks.
learn stuff like that about art. Is such a wonderful talent. Thanks for making time to come on. Folks, you could see all the amazing credits listed there under Amanda's name in the player. And now this new awesome album, Epic Drumline Promos, 10 assorted pieces, about 2 minutes long, that were recorded in an arena live in real time. She did all the writing, the production, the soundscape, just wonderful, wonderful stuff. You should be very proud of yourself.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Stay on the line with me. And folks, thank you for joining Amanda Muse and myself, Dan Schinder, here on Drum Talk TV. Lots more to come, even though the year is like, there's like a month and a half
Yeah,
left of this year. I cannot believe it. It just doesn't feel like November. Just
no,
bizarre.
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Lots of fun stuff left. Thanks for following us, folks. And we'll be back soon with more. Thanks.